Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom, while the Nintendo Switch remake should be on its way. So, last time, we have essentially did manage to able to continue exploring for the forms of Land's End, despite the fact that we did somehow manage to able to do some bit of backtracking here and there during the forms of in the previous areas throughout. But aside from all that stuff though, we did at least manage to able to got some progressioning there, despite the fact that I somehow accidentally ignored the actual optional boss fight, which, trust me, what I'm saying is that once we do some more stuff here and there, I promise you guys I will try to show you guys the forms of the optional boss fights as much as possible, assuming if I'm lucky. So, but if not, then otherwise I'll just put in the links in the description down below. So, either way, today for this video is about the fact that we'll be able to actually start to explore Belome Temple. So because of this though, yeah, we're about to able to go ahead and start solving certain puzzles here and there. Like for instance, in this spot in particular, we do need to force to pay this guy 50 coins to able to actually get one of those fortunes. So for instance, let's go ahead and insert the actual combinations, as in, well, not only one switch, but 3 switches. So let's go ahead and do the middle one, and the left and right. And if you do that combination, then obviously it tells you the description for it. So as a result, for that particular matter though, that I think something tells me once you're able to actually insert that specific combination, something will happen. Like for instance, enemies start to show up. So yeah, because I think if you manage to try to do a different combination, certain stuff will differ depending on the forms of what combinations you're able to actually insertable to. So either way, yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about this for the most part right here. So even then though, I will show you the forms of 2 different paths to take during the forms of this particular temple itself. So either way though, not much else to tell for this point. So either way, oh yeah, a few things I want to explain for this point today, and that's what appears to be about the fact that today's date, of course, there is I would say today is the 6th of August today, in this case in 2023 today. Naturally speaking now about the fact that I will promise you guys, I will try to mention about the forms of how Nintendo Switch sales units is actually doing. Well, it's nothing groundbreaking or anything else like that, apart from the fact that they only shown us one in particular highlight in terms of the forms of the actual Switch sales as far as this is concerned. That will honestly have to be by the forms of the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom focus, because obviously about that time when that game came out in May this year, as you probably already expected will to, whilst it wasn't until we was able to find out more details about Pikmin 4 at some point once we get into November, while they do the actual financial data for the sake of the forms of the Switch sales, during the forms of that particular September or something. So either way, again, I apologize for my commentary because it's a little bit slightly iffy at this point today, but that's just because about the fact that, well, obviously if you couldn't tell already about the fact no matter what though, that I somehow managed to win back into the forms of Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania on my own time for a bit, on not only on the Xbox One version, but also on the Switch version as well, just to able to complete certain missions throughout, and especially noticeable just trying to try our best if we're able to actually play Monkey Target, despite the fact that, you know, Monkey Target in the forms of Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania has been nerfed from the likes of the forms of how it does it on the previous games. So, and it looks like we've now reached to level 16, so huzzah, and it seems that when it comes to the point that we've almost at level 20, so yeah, that's what I mean about the fact that the more we do level ups, then we should able to actually become a lot more stronger. So either way though, that's the important key aspect about the forms of role-playing games. So anyway though, so of course we're able to expect to come across into those enemies once again, ever since in the actual Land's End. So, and I think relatively speaking, we're actually getting very close towards the end of the forms of Land's End, before we move on to the forms of the next sections throughout. Like for instance, I think we've almost approaching onto Monstro Town. So because of that though, hopefully we're able to start to experience more, you know, exploration and during the forms of other sections throughout. So either way though, as you can tell, that Mellow is now on level 16, so how's that for that? And there's also a spring, you can now able to actually go back into that specific point. And of course, we can never forget ourselves the actual question mark treasure chest there. And from here, I think this is where we might able to come across into ourselves some hidden chests in here. Like for instance, I think there was actually, oh, there's a frog coin there. And if I recall correctly, there's also there's another frog coin in there. And I think there's going to be yet another frog coin on there. So, well, sure things worth noting for to keep an eye on with that particular spot. So it looks like we made our way to this specific point right there. Now, depending on what specific scrolls you get, basically one of them did say about the fact that, sorry, I am not accepting visitors past my bedtime, because otherwise, depending on the forms of the actual message did say something a bit differently for the scroll, then obviously it can lead you up to 2 different rooms. So as a result, we ended up in the forms of in a treasure room, but the ones I'm actually going to be aiming for first will have to be by the forms of something related to snack related. So let's just say if we keep on going back and forth in between different rooms and all that stuff, and if we grab it, it's the same. So we're just gonna be able to keep doing this if we get lucky enough. So alright, there we go. As soon as it says, I'm so hungry, this means about the fact that we might come across into someone that's familiar with, for those who ever experienced the journey forms at the beginning portion of the game, specifically in Kero Sewers. So either way though, it looks like my team is fully set. So either way, oh look who it is. We have ourselves the forms of, well, Belome right here. So either way though, I suppose we need able to try to sort something out for our team status reports, and it looks like we should be all set in due time. Especially noticeable that thankfully Mario and Mellow are all in level 16 so far, except Princess Toadstool, but I'm sure she will definitely go ahead and get onto the forms of level 16, well, at some point later on in the game. So either way though, I was gonna have to make sure I need to restore not only HP for certain teammates or characters for that matter, but also just trying to able to build up our correct accessories in mind. And especially noticeable, we're gonna have to able to restore our flower points as well, just in case we don't able to actually waste all of our flower points during the actual battle. So either way though, and I think something tells me about that particular point where the fight itself might get a bit harder. Well, as a result of that particular stuff though, assuming of course if you do manage to able to level up of course, like at all times obviously. So either way, well, looks like we've met again, mister. Except now, about the fact that the status is actually a lot different. Like, for instance, he does have 1200 HP, or should I say, 1200 HP, and on top of that, if you defeat him, I believe you get about 80 experience points, and you get 20 coins if you defeat him. So, overall, it seems not too shabby for the most part, but throughout the majority of the fight, he does have something new to the table. Like, for instance, he's probably gonna eat, Princess Toadstool for some reason, and what makes this a little bit different this time, he's actually decided able to create a clone version of themselves. Well, it doesn't matter what characters you bring, so it's obviously either be Princess Toadstool, or Mellow, or Geno, or Bowser, and most potentially Mario. So, no matter what though, if you have Mario as the leader, he obviously that brings us Mario clone with you. So because of that though, yeah, depending on what characters you bring at, he always decide able to choose randomly. Either he'll eat not only Mario, but also Princess Toadstool and Mellow. But if you switch it over to Geno or Bowser, then obviously about the fact that the health amount is actually a lot different too. Like for example, since that he did somehow created you know, clone Princess Peach or Princess Toadstool, or should it say Toadstool 2, where basically it's about the fact that her HP is actually a lot more lower. Well, I would say not nearly as lower as the actual current Princess Toadstool as we playing as, but right now it looks like we actually stumbled across into ourselves clone Mario, or should I say Mario clone. And I think on the actual status quote, on the actual like clones, depending on what characters you're able to select during the battle. I believe if Mario is there, obviously Mario Clone exists, and Mario Clone does have 200 HP, and if you kill him, basically you get 10 experience points, and it doesn't drop any coins. And if you bring Toadstool with you, Princess Toadstool specifically, Princess Toadstool, specifically Toadstool 2, she has 120 HP, and somehow it only drops 1 experience point, and no coins dropped. And if you bring Mello with you, obviously about the fact that he'll create Mello Clone. So as a result, Mello Clone does have 150 HP, and he drops about 60 experience points if you kill the clone, and basically also doesn't drop any coins. However, if you manage able to bring Geno in the battle, basically Geno will get Geno Clone. So as a result, Geno Clone, assuming if you're able to have Geno in your battle, basically does about the fact that Geno Clone does have 250 HP, and he'll drop about 40 experience points, and still no coins dropped. So, and finally, if you do manage able to bring Bowser into the battle, which is a good thing I'm not selecting him in this battle, because otherwise, he'll decide able to kick our butts, no, without a doubt. And also, he has more HP than he forms of how he does it from anybody or any clones for that matter. So, for instance, in Bowser Clone, if you have Bowser in your team, Clone Bowser will have 300 HP, and he'll drop about 100 experience points if you kill him, and on top of that, you also get no coins. So, I get the feeling we might come across into 2 Mario clones. Oh jeez, this might felt a bit chaotic at times. Although I highly recommend you're able to try and take down as many of those clones as possible, because if you start trying to able to focus on Belome for this entire battle, obviously you're about to get wrecked. So either way, though, I highly recommend you're able to take down as many of those clones as much as possible, so just in case you can able to actually have yourselves an easier experience throughout the entire fight by far. So either way, though, just pay attention to the forms of trying to take down the clones as much as possible. So that's all I can really say about this for the most part right here. And it's especially noticeable I'm actually starting to be using the Ultra Jump right here, so just in case we can able to not only decide to able to target on 1 enemy, but 2 enemies as well. So yeah, that felt was a little bit fascinating to say the least, and also it's a good thing we decided to bring in Mello to the fight, because otherwise if he managed able to bring out 2 clones, obviously we need to able to take them down fast before we take on the main fight itself. So yeah, that's the whole entire suggestion about the forms of bringing out Mello in this fight, because otherwise without him, then obviously it makes this boss fight a little bit tricky. So but regardless of everything else though, I'm sure that he's almost down. So either way though, it's pretty weird able to actually stumble across into him twice. So, well, I mean, it's very similar to the forms of how he does it for Croco as far as this is concerned. So anyway, so let's go ahead and do some multitude of bounces on this specific Ultra Jump special move. Oh, not bad. And it looks like he's down according to the forms of the text box. So, yeah, everything else goes all fine and dandy and everything. Especially, I love performing not only a regular jump, but also super jump and ultra jump as well. So, either way though, yes, super top notch. And I think that pretty much takes care of the forms of some aspects about the forms of Land's End. Even though, mind you, I will be back for this particular temple at some point, because of the forms of other secrets needs to be addressed. So, and from here we're able to meet up with this mouse fella, or this rat, and that will pretty much lead us to the next section, which appears to be Monstro Town. So everything else seems a little bit more weird around here. And there's a key up there, and we definitely need to able to try to sort that out at some point. And this is where you're able to leave this entire town, but I'm actually going to be deciding to do some multiple stuff here and there first, journey forms within Monstro Town first, before we're able to continue our proceedings to the next section of the forms of this entire... Oh wow, I just realized, somehow we dived right into not only when it comes to the forms of our previous save file that I've somehow saved from, somehow we got level 14 at first, but now we're on to the forms of level 16 because of the forms of that Starman situation, and on top of that, try to keep on battling as many of those enemies as you could. So and also you can able to adjust the actual speed of this particular fan. So either way though, everything else will be seem to be accounted for, so... Oh yes, I should also mention about the fact at a particular point where there's also a yet another optional fight, but you got able to come across as that 3 times. Well, what do I mean by that though, is that, well, I'll show you guys in a moment. Especially noticeable, we can now able to discuss upon the forms of some other topics at this point today. First of all, before we get into more details about the forms of the actual Switch sales numbers so far anyway, it seems about the fact that not only that at this point in time that Summer de Amigo is getting Party Central on the Nintendo Switch in later on this month, but out of nowhere, there's also going to be an Apple Arcade exclusive game. Apparently it's going to be on its way too. So, potentially speaking, not only are we about to be getting the Switch game, but also about the fact that we're also getting ourselves the Meta Quest 2 game, and now we're about to be getting ourselves the Apple Arcade game as well. So it looks like about the fact that it looks like Summer de Amigo is actually giving us a nice surprise treatment after that particular nice revival of the series ever since during the forms at the beginning portion of 2023. So as a result, similar to the forms of how it does it in the Super Monkey Ball franchises ever since in 2019, they somehow finally make the series make a return. Well, at least specifically we've got the remake of Banana Blitz, so yeah, it gets us that. So, I'm not exactly sure when does Summer de Amigo on an Apple Arcade game is going to be on its way, but I'm guessing it might be sometime in either this year or next year. I can't really tell for sure. But anyways, let's get into the forms of the main treatment of the forms of the Switch sales numbers while this is going on. I've already mentioned about the fact that so far, so good anyway, is that the Nintendo Switch hardware total as far as this is concerned, as of update in during forms of by the end of June, in this year in particular, it seems that so far the Nintendo Switch has been gone into 129.53 million units sold. So yeah, still a pretty good success during that time. So I highly doubt about the fact that I still am not exactly 100% sure they're still trying to able to catch up on not only for the Game Boy, oh wait, kind of think about it, I'm pretty sure it's more accurately the forms of not only the Nintendo DS family of systems, and potentially speaking with PlayStation 2 sales units, but I'm sure enough, when it gets to the point until 2024, then it will able to actually start able to bring up the huge sales during that time. But even then though, it's hard to tell for this point. And, in terms of the forms of the actual game sales as far as this is concerned, well, surprisingly enough, none of any other games did manage to able to get updated so far, apart from a couple. Like for instance, they most likely focused on not only the top 10 games during that time, but also about the fact that, as I said before, the main focus of the forms of the Switch reports, or should I say the sales reports, is thanks to the forms of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom's existence. Like for instance, about that particular point where, when it comes to the top 10 best-selling Switch games as of for right now, it seems about the fact that it looks like that we actually got ourselves a one only new update as far as this is concerned. Well, first off, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still on top, and as a result, it gets like the ridiculous amount of numbers. And as a result, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is now on 55.46 million copies sold. I'm guessing because DLC might have something to do with that, which I suppose that's a good thing, especially noticeable that now we actually got ourselves, you know, brand new selections of courses, and especially noticeable with the forms of some brand new characters as well. Well, at least specifically during that time, when since that takes place in June, that obviously that everyone else is still able to experience Birdo so far. But imagine until when the September update rolls around, then it'll expect it able to actually just to get, well, so many numbers as far as this is concerned. Now, as far as Animal Crossing New Horizons are concerned, I believe that game is still in second place. So as a result, it's still, while generally speaking, it gets a little bit updated for its sales units. So as a result, it's actually now on to 42.79 million copies sold. And in terms of third place, it's still Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and this time it's now on 31.77 million copies sold. I'm guessing because also DLC as well. And exponentially speaking though, I very appreciate about that, with that particular sales numbers as far as this is concerned. And fourth place still goes to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Like, at this point in time, it's now on 30.65 million copies sold. And it still looks pretty impressive even to this day. Especially noticeable, it's way more up there than the forms of how it does it on the Wii U version, because gee, no wonder why the Wii U itself is dead. Especially noticeable during the forms of not only for its lifespan, but it's also the lack of third-party support, and on top of that, the eShop is now dead when it comes to both the Wii U and the 3DS. Which is a shame, because we never get a chance to able to get ourselves, you know, jam-packed full of Nintendo DS titles during that time on the Virtual Console lineup. Like, you know, we are completely lack of the forms of not only Mario vs. Donkey Kong Mini Land Mayhem, and same applies with Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, as well as the Sonic games like Sonic Rush Adventure, Sonic Colors on the DS, and especially noticeable with Sonic Chronicles The Dark Brotherhood, and no Super Princess Peach, and especially noticeable with no Diddy Kong Racing DS because of, well, Rare managed able to actually get this little development or something like that. And on top of that, no WarioWare DIY, and on top of that with the forms of no Kirby Superstar Ultra, which is, you know, kinda sucks honestly, because I would love to be able to see that game make its re-release on the Nintendo Wii U Virtual Console re-release, but it's too late now because, you know, the eShop is dead. So anyway, back into the forms of the actual Switch games sales records as far as during that time. 5th place actually receives an update, which this time, Super Mario Odyssey is now back on track for its sales numbers. And as a result, Super Mario Odyssey is now in 5th place, and as a result, it's now on 26.44 million copies sold, which is really, really good. And on top of that, you know, still looks very, very promising, especially noticeable it's actually the best-selling 3D Mario games ever made, especially considering how success that game can be, back in 2017 of course, and it still is without a doubt one of my favorite Nintendo Switch games, alongside with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at this point. And same applies with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, including Tears of the Kingdom, which I'll mention later. So, either way, that's what I can really think about it. So, and when it comes to 6th place and 7th place position respectively, they're all both related to Pokemon. So as a result, 6th place goes to Pokemon Sword and Shield, which at this point, Pokemon Sword and Shield is currently on to 25.92 million copies sold. So yeah, that's actually getting pretty, it's getting there. And in terms of 7th place, when it comes to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the most recent Pokemon game during that time, is actually now on to 22.66 million copies sold. So it's almost caught up in between not only Generation 8, but also Generation 9 when it comes to Pokemon games. So, and also 8th place still goes to, actually kind of thinking about it though, I'm thinking that Super Mario Party was now moved back to, I would say, it's hard to explain really, because I know for a fact that, well, it's been about 3 months ago since we actually last mentioned about the forms of the actual Nintendo Switch sales numbers during that specific period. So either way though, let's just go ahead and leave Monstro Town from now on, and straight to the point, we can now able to actually start to able to revisit to certain areas to able to find out specific clues of where exactly where to find those specific flags for those specific spirits as far as this is concerned. I know for one thing in mind, we're going back into the forms of Yoshito's Isle, so just in case we're able to get one of those hints. And I think there's going to be another one somewhere in Rose Town. And finally, when it comes to the forms of the third and final flag, it's going to be located at the very beginning of the game, right onto Mario's pad, where the pipe house was located. So yeah, it seems pretty interesting to be able to actually go back into the forms of the pipe house, specifically Mario's house most likely. So just so I'm sure about the fact that we can able to actually backtrack for certain parts throughout. So, Anyway, in terms of Super Mario Party, seems strangely enough that unlike Mario Party Superstars, somehow, unfortunately though, Mario Party Superstars never gets updated for the sake of the phones of Switch sales for that particular game sales as far as I'm aware. But so far for Super Mario Party, it's still managed able to increase for the actual, like, sales numbers as far as this is concerned. Like, so far for Super Mario Party, it's now on to 19.39 million copies sold. So, yeah, it's actually getting pretty well. Now, in terms of 9th place, on the other hand, we actually got ourselves the only new game, well, technically speaking, it already exists during the forms have been, sometime in May, or something related to that. And that's what appears to be The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And so far, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is now on to 9th place when it comes to the top 10 best-selling Nintendo Switch games, which is actually a good thing, especially noticeable because everyone else seems to really enjoy that particular game, myself included. And as a result, it's actually now on to 18.51 million copies sold. So yeah, it's actually doing super duper well. And finally, for number 10 though, it's still New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. And as a result, it's actually now on to 16.17 million copies sold, which is kind of strange if you ask me. Oh, and by the way, something's worth noting for, if you do manage to able to find every single flags, basically we're able to get ourselves the Ghost Badge, I think is what it says anyway, or the Ghost Medal as far as what I meant to say. Again, I apologize for that particular commentary, it's a little bit slightly iffy at this point today, but that's just because about the fact that I've almost running out of ideas about the forms of the actual news at the moment, especially noticeable at that particular point where we still have no idea when does the Pokemon Presents is about to start, at some point during the forms of this month in particular, but I'm sure that Sonic will be able to mention more details about that once he's go back onto the forms of Sonic Frontiers at some point. But either way though, yeah, it seems about the fact no matter what though is that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is the most mentioning of the bunch when it comes to the forms of the actual Switch updated sales. So, kind of strange honestly, but either way though, it's a good thing at the same time. That's just because about the fact that everyone loves that game so much. And by that time, once, you know, the actual September game Switch sales updates will start to roll around. Although, what's even weird is about the fact that they've never actually mentioned about the forms of the game's Switch sales for the game selections anyway, when it comes to both Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2 in a double pack. I'm guessing because about the fact that maybe, though I'm not exactly sure if the downloadable versions do count for the sake of the forms of the actual, like, I don't know, Switch sales numbers for the sake of the forms of the game sales or something like that. But either way though, it's kind of difficult to judge. But as you can see, I'm actually going to be switching over to a different character for a bit. So as you can tell, not only I'm sticking around with Peach or Princess Toadstool for the majority of the time, because, you know, healing items for her through her special move is obviously a good thing. And on top of that, I also decided able to bring Bowser to the mix, because, well, relatively speaking, we're now on to the next section, which appears to be by the forms of, let's just say, stuff related to the dojo kind of thing. So either way though, because as I mentioned this before, there's also another optional fight, but as a result that you got able to not only fight one of them, but you have to come across into one of them 3 times. So, well, for instance, no matter what though, about the fact that, well, obviously we need to take down this very self-explanatory enemy, well, at least in ever since during that specific period where it's been a very long while since we actually stumbled across into this guy since during the forms of the beginning portion of the game in Bowser's Keep, once we are able to actually play as Mario all alone, and while at the same time trying to able to rescue Princess Toadstool from the clutches of Bowser. So either way, unfortunately I haven't got exactly that much accurate things for the sake of trying to able to mention something like this, especially noticeable because, again, I apologize for my commentary, it's a bit slightly iffy at this point today, especially noticeable because, well, relatively speaking, no, that's why I can really talk about this, especially noticeable because I've already mentioned about the fact at a particular point, oh, I just realized Princess Toadstool did somehow got knocked out. Well, luckily though, since this takes place on a dojo, basically we don't need to worry about getting a game over. So if all of you dies, obviously you don't go back to where the save point was. So but that's just for beginners anyway, so either way though, we somehow managed able to did pretty nicely for this particular point. And I believe once that battle is done, I'm pretty sure all of your health has been restored, so at the very least that's something. And as it looks like, we got ourselves yet to another opponent to face up against, which, truth be told though, as I said before, we need to deal with him 3 times during the forms of the optional boss fights as far as this is concerned. So, yeah, I'm also able to actually show this off anyway, and yeah, good thing that the health has been regenerated, so... Anyway, so let's begin with the first match against with... Jinx, as far as this is concerned. It's almost like a tiny insect warrior as far as this is concerned. So as I said before, we need to deal with him for about 3 times. Well, I'm not going to do it right now for the 3 times period. I'm only going to show you 1 match against with him, but the more we leveled up, then we might come back to it eventually. So in some cases though, I wish me luck I suppose when it comes to deal with him later on. So for the first encounter with Jinx, he only has like 600 HP and that's it basically. So there's no experience points reward and there's no coins to be claimed, so it's just a matter of the forms of the dojo match. In fact, it kind of thinking about it, it does kind of reminds me of the forms of the Olympus Coliseum situation during the course of the Kingdom Hearts games. Well, usually relatively speaking though, specifically in Kingdom Hearts 1, that basically though, if you get knocked out, you don't get a game over, and especially noticeable, you don't get the option to continue, so it just kicks you out of the forms of this entire endurance run for the sake of the forms of depending on what cup you go into. So relatively speaking though, it's just about the fact that, oh geez, I just realized he's almost gonna be trying to get a bit stronger. So yeah, this is one point about the fact that, again, potentially speaking though, it's just about the fact, as I said before, this boss is entirely optional. So because of that though, yeah, that's what I can really think about it. But yeah, in terms of everything else I could possibly discuss on that front, that's as far as I can talk about this. Even though especially noticeable that specific period where that I've already mentioned about this before since in yesterday, that obviously about the fact that while looking at the Mario Kart Tour version of that particular squeaky clean sprint, yeah, it feels like that the visuals on that particular track in Mario Kart Tour just definitely feels like a massive downgrade compared to the forms of how it does on the superior Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version to me anyway, because, you know, the visuals on the Switch version of that particular track looks stunning. So, anyways, that is our first match done for the sake of the forms of Jinx. But then again though, the second match against with him, it should be now up and running. But as I said before, we're not going to do that straight away, so we will be back for that eventually. So, anyway, so I guess with that being said though, I was expecting if I was able to continue things on for this point right there, but I'm afraid to tell you we're going to wait for a little while. So because of that, why not if we go back into the forms of that particular temple location again, so just to ensure about the fact that we can able to show off some other things here and there. And something's worth noting for, since that after all, we've already managed able to ask one of those NPCs in that specific period. That also means we can now able to actually go ahead and explore the next section. So, but before we do that, we need to able to... Is that notes even a thing? I need to able to actually access to. Sorry, message, for the sake of time. There we go. So yeah, this is what happens if you do manage to get this message on that particular scroll. Rather than taking you to the forms of the actual boss fight against with, you know, Belome himself, but there's actually a golden statue of him, and basically we need to key as you get from the likes of that Monstro Town as you saw, and basically that way it gives us not only some more frog coins as well as some more items to our disposal like fire bombs. Oh, that's actually a really good item, especially I might also save that up until for a later time. And on top of that, more flower points, specifically 4 of those flower points, which is actually very, very awesome. And that's about it, basically. So even then, as well as some frog coins as well, which I think actually, I don't know exactly sure if I got enough frog coins for the sake of the forms of trying to able to buy certain accessories for that matter. But I'm sure I'll try to able to actually try to find some more later down the road, especially noticeable with certain surprise boxes that I've somehow missed throughout. So, So yeah, I guess that was it from here. So now we need to head back all the way to the beginning of the particular temple, because since about the fact that we've already gone into that particular specific code, and now we need to do this again, and still we need to pay 50 coins to be able to do this again, so yes, of course. And this time we need to do in a different order. So for instance, let's go ahead and get started with the forms of, well, left, middle, and right. And from here we get ourselves a different message. And, well, relatively speaking, it all brings us something different to the table. Assuming, of course, if I was trying to go into down to the pipe. Come on. There we go. And we get ourselves a random item, which appears to be Yoshi Cookie, strangely enough. So, yeah, that's actually pretty swell. So let me just go ahead and get rid of my pick-me-up items. So just to ensure now we've actually got ourselves, you know, comeback special move for Peach or Princess Toadstool. So we don't need to necessarily try to worry about keep on buying pick-me-up items for now. So anyway, so I think that pretty much takes care of it for this particular point of the temple. So we basically already shown you every single portions of it. And you need to pay coins for that particular spring here and there as well. So that leads you straight back out of the forms of that particular sandy bit. So anyway though, so now we're done with that. And again, I was expecting to try to show you guys the optional boss fight. But then again, no, I'll show this off and during at some point. Either next weekend or some different days elsewhere. So anyway, so this is where we come across into ourselves the next minigame of any sorts, and in order to be able to get something rewarding, specifically the next accessory, you need to be fast. Like, for instance, I think in order to be able to get that specific accessory, they do need to beat this particular part within under 12 seconds, and trust me, with the forms of isometric platforming can be felt a bit fickle at times, but when you get the hang of it though, assuming of course you need to be fast enough as well, and exponentially, if you do manage to able to pull this off, then obviously you get something rewarding, thanks to the forms of that particular Sergeant Cooper, or something like that. And as a result, we get ourselves a glorious Trooper pin. So, yeah, pretty swell. Mind you, don't get too excited with the forms of that particular accessory, because according to the actual status, it might not be the most useful in the world, but at least it's okay enough. Although, despite it did say the down arrow is most likely for its status for attacks and everything. So, anyway, so that's that, and that pretty much leads us to the next section, which appears to be Bean Valley. So, I wonder what this is all about. I'm guessing it might as well take place sometime in the autumn season. Well, yes, it's almost like an autumn season after all. And it's going to be filled to the brim with all these somewhat familiar enemies as far as we've already come across into, presumably ever since in Land's End. So, and exponentially we will come across into some more enemy types at some point in the future, and maybe potentially a next boss fight coming up as well. So, yeah, that might be saying something. Oh, nice. We got once again. That's actually super top-notch and everything. But then again, no, that's as far as I can talk about this at this point, guys. Even though, again, I apologize for my commentary is a little bit still to that point, but that's just because about the fact that I've already mentioned about the forms of, well, I just really wish if the forms of they'll just try to, you know, keep on increasing some more, you know, Switch game sales numbers for certain titles, like, you know what I'm saying, with Mario Party Superstars, as well as Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, and especially noticeable with Metroid Prime Remastered, and etc, etc. But maybe, just maybe, by that time until when it gets to a point until sometime in February 2024, that we might able to actually hear about the forms of, well, some Switch sales numbers for, not only for Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but also with WarioWare Move It and Super Mario RPG Remake might able to actually get mentioned on the forms of the financial games Switch sales for the sake of the forms of by the end of the forms of 2023. But then again though, we'll have to wait and find out, so what I'm going to do is that I'll do one more battle, and chances are though that I don't think I've got enough time to able to explore the rest of, you know, being belly as far as this is concerned. So with that being said though, I think, relatively speaking, I think we should probably end things up at this point right here. So join me next time for more Let's Play of Super Mario RPG, The Legend of the Seven Stars, and that's what appears to be about the fact that we'll go ahead and continue exploring for the forms of, well, being belly and able to investigate through, well, warp pipes. So I'll see you guys until next week. Later, fellas.